Welcome to Two Women Who Give a Puck. My name is Sarah,
And I'm Tara.
and we are here to highlight the experiences of females in hockey, both players and coaches, as well as to provide tangible ways to create a more positive environment in that space.
Correct.
Yep.
That's why we're here. Yep.
And today we have our first second time guest. We should have brought them a gift. Yeah. Next time.
Presents.
We do have prizes.
We do have prizes. I just,
Well,
yeah.
We'll have to come back and get one.
Yeah.
Sarah keeps forgetting to bring the prizes for our guests. Yes, we'll get it one of these days.
Sarah's forgetful.
Yes. But we have Kelly and Kimmy back. So in our previous episode, I forgot to look at the number, but we will put the number and the episode link into the show notes. So if folks didn't listen to it, they can. But we had a previous episode before the hockey season started because both of you decided to put your name in the hat for coaching your daughters, well, and son. And so give that a listen. It was a great episode. They talked about how they fell in love with hockey. As a reminder, they're some of our buzzer beater players. So they started playing hockey later in life and absolutely loved it. So continued playing. And then we will take some credit.
Yeah.
Because I don't always celebrate my own successes. So
No.
we can take a moment to say we did something.
Suck somebody in.
And we
Choose somebody. So
two somebodies, we inspired two somebodies
Yep.
to explore coaching and to jump into coaching, even though they felt a little afraid, had some imposter syndrome going on.
no hesitation. Yep.
Yep, some hesitations. They both called us separately, and we helped them walk through all of the great things that they can contribute
Yep.
to the world of hockey, girls hockey, any hockey, adult hockey, off ice, all of those fun things. And so they both said, okay, fine, we'll do it.
Yep.
And they jumped in.
And now
They-
we're back here.
Yep. And now we're going to do a follow-up to see how the seasons went because they both put their names in the hat. However, you two had different experiences. So Kelly was picked as a coach and then Kimmy was not picked as a coach.
Correct.
However, like those are both two very important stories. And so we wanted to have both of you back and thank you for coming back and being willing to share your experiences because I think it's important to have these conversations and for more people to hear about it.
So we're going to start with Kelly.
Sure.
So talk to us about like when you reached out initially and you're like, so that you reached out and what was that experience like? Are they receptive of you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how did that process look in your association?
I reached out. I can't remember if it was like in an association wide email that was like, if you're interested in coaching, fill out this Google form. I feel like it was something like that. Or like you go to the website and it had like for coaches and you filled that out. And the director of development called and just we had like a short conversation. I filled out the Google form first and like had my contact information in there, but like I noted that I myself was new to the sports and learning it, and hadn't played like organized hockey until I was an adult. And so he reached out and we had a phone conversation and just talked about like I'm definitely more interested in an assistant coach position and not a head coach position. We talked a little bit about my kind of personal and professional background, and I'm very familiar and like comfortable working with kids and groups of kids and understand kind of development and learning pretty well. So those were all things I felt like I brought. I think we kind of ended it. This was before like kind of tryouts and assessments were happening. So he welcomed me to come to all of the clinics that they have. So I did that. That was a really fun way to get to know the girls before teams were selected. He said, like, I think regardless of what team your daughter's on, like, we'd love to have you in some role. It just kind of depends on where the teams kind of end up landing. So that's what I remember from it.
Well, it sounds like it was a very positive
Mm-hmm.
experience.
Mhm.
And it's so great that that person within your association reached out to you
Mm-hmm.
too, to not just, maybe see you or see your application and make any assumptions about like what value you could bring, but actually having a conversation with you to understand
Yep.
your value and
Yeah.
talk to you about that. So I think that's just those conversations that's an important piece for maybe like boards or those coaching directors to keep in mind with reach out to those folks and have conversations with them to understand why do you want to coach,
Mhm.
what's your background, like talking about your professional background,
Mhm.
like that's awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome too, because that's part of who you are.
Yeah, and it's easy to lean on the people that you know and are familiar with, and I think that's what happens in a lot of associations, and that's probably what's happening in your association, Kimmy, but it's so much better for the development of the game and the girls and boys and, like, for everybody if we get a variety of people with different skill sets, and so that needs to be we talk about tangible takeaways, that needs to be one of them is, like, how do we interact more with the people that express interest so that we make sure that people that have something to offer are given an opportunity to do that? And so I think it's really neat that your association chose to do that in your situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we talk so much about inviting females in. I mean, that's how Tara ends every single episode. And females do tend to need to get invited more. And so, yes, you submitted your application like everyone else, but I'm sure you felt much more invited after, having
Yeah.
those meetings
Yeah.
and being able to have conversations.
Yeah.
So, that's one way that a tangible way you can invite,
More females into the game.
yes, more females and coaches.
Yeah. So then season starts. What was your first, like, oh my gosh, I'm a coach moment?
The big one that hit me was our first like district game, and I was on the bench. And the refs come over and shake hands before the game and introduce themselves to you. And so just being on the bench, but then like being the person who opens the door for them and like cueing them when to do shift changes and giving them feedback and just not always things that they could improve on next shift, but like, "You did such a great job hustling back." Just like,
Yeah.
the positive, things like that. I think the first game was like, "Oh, man, this is it?" Yeah.
So what part of the coaching came naturally to you? What part did you go, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing here?
Demonstration was definitely like, "I don't know what I'm doing here." Um, but I think connecting with skaters individually and, like, holding space to make it welcoming, I think what came naturally to me, like I usually try to always focus on the positive of what can be pulled out as good things. So even in some of our, in tougher games or moments, it's a long season. There are tough moments throughout, like focusing on like look how far we've come and look how far where we are now. So pulling out the positive things and then just like I've always connected with kids really easily. It comes really naturally to me. I've worked with kids for my whole professional career, so it's just making the connection. It was never awkward or like funny, but the skills and like demonstrating like they are much stronger skaters than I am, and they're so much more brave than I am. Like they have all their gear on, they can do.
Yeah, that matters.
It I took one really bad digger, not it's not a digger. I fell on the ice, and it was moving the goalie board.
Oh, yeah, those things are heavy.
Oh, I dropped it
Balance, yeah.
and then fell and then tried to stand back up and fell again, and I was like, "Oh, that's really gonna leave a mark." Um, so, like, this demonstration and the skills were definitely something that I just struggled with, so
You said you made space from the girls and made them feel welcome. Did you
Mhm.
feel that like that was reciprocated? Because I mean, I would hope so. But, obviously, if you just said you were with these people that are, tons of experience and you're
Mhm.
new, and obviously there's gonna be a different skill set.
Mhm.
Were the girls still appreciative of your presence and of you being there and supporting them, even though your skill looked very different than
Yes.
other coaches?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. They'd seek me out, so I'm
Yep.
assuming, like, that's a pretty good indicator, but,
Yeah.
I think, like, we talked about or I've heard in your other podcasts, like, I think because of me being a woman and me being at the skill that I am, like, it was more acceptable for me to be silly.
Yep.
So, like, I'd play that's my puck with them. Like, I would chase them. "That's my puck. You found my puck. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I'll take it back now."
Yeah.
Like, we'd do that for, like, the kind of few minutes you have before
Yeah.
warm-up start, and things like that. Like it just kind of naturally made it really easy to have a relationship with them and be more silly. And I didn't have to do the drill planning, which is nice too. No practice planning.
Yeah, you just got to show up.
Just gotta show up.
But that speaks to everyone has something to offer that is going to make the team better, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like a hockey skill. It's just a social skill or a coaching skill. And so that's really neat that they responded to those.
Starting at the 10U level for me was a good entry point. Like skills and all of that, but just like it felt like for our team there was so much more maybe time or space that I was seeing room for them to just be kids out there. And
Yeah.
like, yep, we're gonna work on your edges, but we're gonna do it by playing this fun game. Which, like, again, you both talk about, like, that's what USA Hockey talks about is like it doesn't need to be structured drills all of the time. You can still build skills through playing That's My Puck.
You're right. Yeah. So how did your confidence change over the season?
Um, it definitely grew. I think I was also like on the ice with them 4 nights a week, 5 days, so just my skill and being my skill, but like my comfort on my skates on the ice just got so much stronger. And then there were practices where like our head coach couldn't be there and we had we had a head coach and then 3 assistant coaches. And I found that no assistant coach they wanted to be assistant coaches and didn't really want to step into that head role. So when our head coach was out, like it was like, well, what are we gonna do? I'm like, we got to get going here. Like we got to get going. So it was kind of just taking the lead, and my comfort with that grew a lot.
From the outside, you can incorrectly assume like everyone has it figured out. Like everyone's got their shit together. And then when you're in it,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. Like they all kind of want to be
Just winging it.
I know. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like there's a plan, but it never goes according to plan.
Right. From the outside, it looks like everyone has got their shit together. They know what they're doing. And so you won't fit in because you're learning.
Yeah.
It's like, no, everyone's learning.
Yeah.
Like every coach, whether they've been coaching for 20 years or
Yeah.
20 months, like they're learning.
I had several moments this season. I'm like, oh, I wish we could go back and do that practice again or that game again because I'm like, I made so many mistakes. Like, I want to do it again for me.
Right.
So what was the biggest surprise over the season?
The team that I helped coach was a lot of first year skaters. So we knew like going into it, we were going to do a lot of like foundational, like basics of how to play the game. And so that we knew about. I think what was so like it made me so proud. I usually get like emotional when I talk about this part, but the way that our association divided up the skaters into teams, we had 3 teams and each had about 11 skaters. And that's really lean. And then we go into winter and one of our skaters got pretty sick and was out for a good chunk of the whole season. So that brought us down to 10. And then illness and then injury. And so like many of our games were just 8.
Yep.
And they never gave up. And one of the skills that we worked really hard on is like it's a skill, but also it just working hard.
Yeah.
And like skating to the puck and trying hard. Like they never stopped. And we didn't see that across the board in other teams in the association. Like our girls didn't stop. They would be down by 6 goals and they didn't stop. And it was like, man, it's hard when you're down by that much and you get defeated or you can get defeated. And we were like, no, we're going to spoil their day. We are not going to let them get a shutout. You go get that puck and put it in the net. It was so surprising. And so even with, we're in a competitive district, a lot of really, really strong teams. And we got really close and we won games that we weren't expecting. It was a really big surprise just because we didn't stop. We just kept going. And like, that was all them. Yeah, it was so much fun. Like, it was just, so even I think part of that was so surprising is like, the parents were so supportive and excited. And so despite like having some bumpy moments and being a pretty lean bench, and kind of being maybe not outplayed, but like there are really strong teams in our district and like they came out and they fought and they didn't stop. And so that was just like, wow, look at what these girls can do. That was really cool.
Right.
So
Well, kudos to you because I know a lot of teams, like that's one of the biggest things they struggle with
Mm-hmm.
is getting that effort and that working hard and that not giving up. Like I saw a lot of teams within our association or talking to a lot of coaches where it's like, that's our biggest issue.
Yeah.
Like
So
how,
it's that resilience when you get behind and
yeah.
or when you start behind. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's awesome that you were able to create that space.
We spent so much time building culture.
Yep.
And like focusing on not just on ice stuff, but like locker room.
But that's really important because that's what's going to make the girls come back. If they won every game this year and they didn't have fun, they're not coming back.
yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that part is more important than the winning. That
Yep.
part's that and like them recognizing in themselves that they're getting better. Those two things are what's going to make them come back.
Yeah. Yep. So we did things in place for that, like really targeted, but specific for like, we want you to recognize what you're doing well and what your teammates are doing well, and then tell them about it. And then we made it fun. We tried our hardest to make it fun. So, being on the ice, we were really only on the ice maybe only four times a week.
Only.
Well, yeah. Higher level teams are on there like 6. They're practicing all the time.
Mhm.
So let's make it fun, and you can still learn a lot of things. That's what USA Hockey talks about is like, let's make it fun, make it a game. How
Yeah.
can we gamify it?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not having fun or if you don't
Mhm.
feel safe, like you're not
Yeah.
not going to be able to learn. And I think sometimes that's something that is missed. So it sounds like you had a wonderful year.
Yes.
You're going back again.
Hopefully, yeah, I'd like to. In an assistant role again.
You never have to work your way up to like a head coach. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't that is your goal, like great
Mhm.
goal, but also like assistant coaches can have a lot of influence as well. And there's certain things that like assistant coaches can do sometimes that the head coaches
Can't get away.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they just have fewer responsibilities sometimes. So there's, they don't have as many
Yeah.
balls up in the air juggling.
And I think a lot of times when you're talking about fun and like being silly and whatever, I think it's harder for the head coach to do that because then people don't take the team or the coaching staff seriously. And so
Mhm.
I kind of feel like the head coach has to be a little more stoic or a little more like has their shit together. But yeah, I think the assistant coaches, they get more leeway to have fun and play and be silly and kind of be more relaxed. And so it's not a bad
Mhm.
role to have.
No,
Yeah.
no.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
We'll stay there.
We're so glad that you had the opportunity and you enjoyed it.
Yes. That's
And
Yeah.
and just that you volunteered and put yourself out there. So
Well,
that's
thank
it.
you for doing the podcast and
Yeah.
inspiring me
Oh,
and
good.
being my coach.
So now we're going to switch over to have a conversation with Kimmy. So her experience was a little different. So she put herself out there to be a coach, and she was not picked like Kelly was picked. But not because you wouldn't be a good coach or that you weren't ready. It's just that that's the story of a lot of women is that they put themselves out there, they volunteer, and then they don't get the opportunity. So I think it's very important to have this conversation as well because a lot of women will find themselves in Kelly's position where they were able to volunteer and they were able to do that thing that they wanted to do. They've been able to be given that opportunity because really in coaching, it is like you can step up and volunteer, but you do then have to be given
Mhm.
that opportunity. So Kimmy was in the situation where she stepped up, volunteered, very excited about it. Yeah.
So you were very eager.
Did like listen to the first podcast. Like she did all the USA Hockey training and absolutely loved it and could, really, we all also could really see her excelling in that role.
Yeah.
And then so it was, very disappointing for all of us to hear that you weren't picked. Well, and I think it is important to acknowledge that for a lot of females to get to the point of, even stepping up and volunteering, like that takes a lot of strength and
Mhm.
a lot of emotions and a lot of questioning yourself, and we talked a lot about imposter syndrome that first round. And so I mean, I commend you for putting yourself out there and having that strength.
It's so interesting because as Kelly tells the beginning of her story, so when I applied, because we had to apply in June, at the end of June, I heard nothing
Yeah.
for months. like you had someone reach out to you and talk to you. I heard nothing for months, and it got to the point where I was getting close to the season and tryouts, and I actually I figured out who would probably be the head coach. I reached out to just have a conversation. So I was like, how can I advocate for myself?
Yeah.
And heard nothing, like nothing, until I got a message saying, we don't have room for you on the coaching staff, but we'd like you to have you as the locker room monitor, or also known as the locker room mom. And that was really difficult because that felt very much there's disagreement amongst my family. My husband didn't think it was sexist. I thought it was highly sexist myself. I was like, so I'm not good enough to coach, but I'm good enough to be a babysitter.
Yeah.
Got it. And that, again, that was my reaction, not my response. But it was very challenging. And because I reached out to both of you, to all of you.
I didn't know how to respond.
Yeah.
Like I had the same just
But we're both on the team babysitter. Not that's in my mind, it was not a respectful ask.
It
Yeah.
felt it felt not respectful. I would completely agree.
so this is a good example of lack of communication does have an impact, and it does hurt people, and it does stress people out, and it's totally I mean
It's
how
disrespectful.
Yeah.
it's very disrespectful. And even I mean your conversation, what maybe it was a 15-minute, half hour, 5 minutes. Oh,
Yeah.
so it's not like you have to put aside 4 hours in your day
Mm-mm.
to reach out to an individual. So a 5-10 minute conversation can be more than enough, and it has such a big impact.
Well, and I will say, so this is my daughter plays in a position that is more coveted on a team. So she was playing. We knew she'd be on the A team. Let's say she's a goalie, so there's less of them. And I think had she been playing at a B1 or B2, I may have had a better chance. But being at an A and having less experience, it was an all-male coaching staff. And I'll be completely transparent in that when I learned who the assistant, there was a co-head coaches and then 2 assistants. When I learned who the assistants were, I was actually very offended because philosophically different approaches to coaching and made me worried for the team.
Mm.
Which, you're not always going to find coaches that you agree with. But knowing that there were other people in the pool, that was hard to take.
Yeah.
And at the same point, recognize, okay, it's about my daughter and it's about her having a season. So how do we put that to the side and not let her feel my disappointment and my frustration? So learning that I could be the locker room monitor, she was actually excited, which was a different experience than I had at Rose. But that goes back to the thought of the difference between my reaction, which was F off, and my response, which was, I would be happy to do that. And it wasn't even happy. It was like, they came at it from, we think your leadership skills would be helpful in the locker room, to which I said, of course. And I threw myself into being the best damn locker room monitor around. But I did, and I was telling Kelly earlier, I brought a whiteboard every practice and had a would you rather question to get the girls talking about different things. I brought a koosh ball so I could throw it around and play beforehand. I bought these athlete mindset cards. There's like 52 cards in this set. And I put one out every practice to bring like the athletic mindset to practices. And then the girls got to the point where they wanted to choose the cards. Like they got very interactive with it.
Nice.
Every once in a while, I would like put out candy after they went out on the ice. When they came back, they'd have like a piece of candy at their spot. I was very engaged, and there was definitely some attitudes initially on that better than mindset. I'm better than that person, or some mean girl behaviors, and I shut that shit down real quick in a
Thank you.
respectful way. But I was like, that's not how this team functions.
Yeah.
Again, to Kelly's point of focusing on the cultures, I was like, you might not be able to let me on the ice, but I can impact the culture of this team in the locker room, and I'm definitely going to do that.
Right. And I mean, we already talked about it in this episode. Like that is so important. And
I mean, in my mind, as you're saying this, I'm like, but you were coaching just from the locker room.
Yeah.
Like you absolutely were. So, but that's not, I understand that's not.
Yeah.
But there's not that visibility because it's not just about the kids on your team, right? It's about all the other little girls that see you, and it's about the parents seeing that a female is capable of doing it, and it's about your association and saying, "Oops, hitting the microphone here." the association can see that females are just as capable, but it's like in my mind, it's like awesome that you got that, but it's not enough.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And I was reflecting back on me, and being on this podcast really helped say, what's your goal as a coach? And my goal was very much I want to be intentional about getting feedback.
Yeah.
And while I'm not a coach, you can't do that as much on the ice. but I don't like to be deterred. So I carried a notebook with me to every game and I took notes while the girls were on the ice or while the athletes were on the ice. And I was like, oh, I had a category for who's hustling. I had a category for who's back checking, who's being the best defensive player, who's doing outstanding plays on the ice. And I make a note of it. And then after the game, after the coaches did their spiel and left, I would go up to them individually and give them feedback and say, hey, in the second period, you were back checking, forced a turnover, which led to a shot on goal on the other side for us to have an offensive play. That was fantastic. So I found very specific ways to give all the girls feedback. I didn't give every girl every game, but 3 or 4 of them. And I got some really good feedback from both the girls being like really appreciative and surprised that they were getting that feedback, but also from parents saying thank you for your impact.
Yeah.
So again, I was like, you can put me in the corner, but I'm not going to shut. Yes.
I'm glad that that is your personality.
Yeah.
Can be mine too, or just like, F you, I'm gonna do what I'm set out here to do. And
Yeah.
you're not gonna, you can tell me no here, but I can still find a way
Yeah.
to do it. And I would love to have someone like that, because that is what I want to do as a coach. But sometimes when you're out on the ice, or if you're the head coach and you have all those extra responsibilities, like it's hard to fit everything in. And if
Mm.
I had an assistant coach who was intentionally doing those pieces and intentionally helping to create that culture, and I could take that off of my plate, like that would be amazing. And
Mhm.
again, like that
Yeah.
stuff means so much.
Yes.
Like some people kind of poo-poo it as, just soft, or not treating them like athletes. But it's like that's what they need to be really strong.
Yep.
and good athletes.
Yeah, we had there was at least 2 times where girls were pretty visibly upset after a game and like everyone was leaving and I was like, hey, do you want a hug? Like literally like as simple as like, and they're like, yeah. So like literally was like at one point I was giving hugs, like you just need a hug. I don't know what's going on right now, but I will give you a hug.
So how were you able to work through the disappointment of not getting picked, and maybe feeling like you were demoted to locker room mom? Could be a feeling. Um, but how did you work through that disappointment and still like understand that you have a ton of value?
Yeah, so I mean, some of it was just throwing myself into the locker room piece of like, what can I do to really make an impact here? Some of it was I gave myself space to grieve.
Yeah.
Like on my own, I'd go for walks and just rage and
Mhm.
either louder in my head. So giving myself space, I had a couple like trusted friends I could talk to about it, but I also was able to, because I have a son in hockey as well, the MITES program was able to say, hey, if you need help, I'm willing to come out. So I did get some opportunities to coach as a backup assistant coach for his team on practices. And that was amazing
Yeah.
and validating of like why I want to do what I want to do. And in some ways, it helped me grieve that because I was able to still apply some of the coaching that I had learned and it didn't feel like a complete loss.
Yeah. And
Right.
those mites are so fun.
Was so fun. And so you asked the question for Kelly, what was surprising to me is that the male coaches were so much more welcoming.
Yeah.
On the male side, I felt so much more welcomed as a coach than I did on the female side.
That's interesting.
And I did not expect that to happen.
That is really interesting. And I'm like in my head trying to think like why might that be? And I don't know. Like I have some ideas, but that does surprise me that they'd be that welcoming, especially because like you both are in a just learning the game, and so it's easy to be dismissive of people that are learning the game. But so it's really cool that wasn't your expectation, or that your experience, I should say. A lot of the times the leadership in an association has not been in a situation where that's happened to them, and so they don't understand the impact that it has on a person, and they're dismissive of people's feelings, not because they don't care, but because they don't understand that they're there. And I wish there was a way to make people realize like these are, and it's not just the females, there's males that, we've talked about it with some of my coaches before that they've never coached before, and they can, they're learning to skate themselves, and them putting themselves out there is probably just as scary in other ways for them as it is for you guys. And when we don't respond to them, or we don't encourage them to continue, or we just say, you're not welcome because you don't have this skill set, like there's real feelings attached to that, and we need to recognize those, whether it's the males or females, but particularly in the females, it just by the way females, the way we the way we were taught and the way society has told us things about ourselves. Like it's there's more feelings, I feel like, on the female side, and we have to acknowledge that those are real. Because as soon as we start trying to pretend that they're not, then that's when we get like it's just icky.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just a big part of it with boards is that communication.
Yep.
Like,
Just treat people like they're human.
right.
Like,
Right.
that they
And
have
if they
feelings.
do have feelings and that, these things, they wouldn't be coaching or volunteering to coach or volunteering to be more involved if it wasn't important to them, and acknowledging that and, giving them that space.
Yeah. And like there's big feelings too. Like that's the thing I think we're like, yes, there's feelings, but they're big feelings. And like, you and I both know people that have had experiences this year that, and I'm sure it's the same with you, is the the way that the season kind of played out, it like really impacted their self-esteem even. Like that's, they're just trying to volunteer. Like,
Yeah.
you have to recognize that. Like and I just, our boards, particular boards, can do so much better in how we treat coaches and how we treat people that are trying to even be coaches, not even the ones that actually are putting in time with the association, but are trying to be there for the association and for the kids.
I think what helped me cope was knowing my why.
Yeah.
Like, what are your values? What are your why? What's your why for doing it? Because that's what you come back to at the end of the day. I could have easily walked away a couple of times, and that's not like it. It would have been hard to explain to my daughter, but ultimately I was like, I could have done that if it was the case.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, I believe in growth. So what can I take from this to grow? I'm a huge believer in mental fitness. I do a lot of work professionally around mental fitness and building resilience. And so I was like, okay, what can I learn from this? What do I have an agency about around this that I can do differently? So I think from what I tell other people is look at it and say, okay, what can you learn from it? And I know it sounds like really cliche, but it's also how could you apply it in a different way than maybe you would have thought?
Yep.
So like I even reached out to one of the other parents. It runs a clinic in the summer, and I know last year he had trouble finding some extra coaches, and I reached out proactively and said, "Hey, I'd love to help coach this summer. Let me know the nights." And he said, "Oh, I think I have a pretty full roster, but I will keep you in mind and let you know." And I was like, "Absolutely." I'm like, I'm a registered coach, so just being open
Yeah.
to how can it maybe look differently than you thought originally.
Yes.
And give yourself the time to grieve and be really angry with the right people.
Yep.
Don't burn bridges accidentally because you're venting to the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Because there's lots of connections in the hockey world that's like, ooh.
And the decision maker isn't always who you think it is. And that's important
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll never know who it was.
Right.
But you do have to be careful about what to do with those feelings and what to do with the frustration and the anger and making sure you're not closing doors in the future.
Right.
So
Yeah.
one of the questions we have for both of you that I'm actually most interested in is, what does belonging look like now in the hockey world? Because for both of you, you've started playing hockey recently. You started coaching recently. You have kids that are involved, and spouses in your case, and in your case as well, right? Yeah. And so, like, how is it, like, what does your shift in belonging look like, or like your view of belonging look like in the past year?
That's a complex question.
I know.
I love values work, so like knowing yourself well enough to know what matters to you and what your like deeply held values are, I think impacts for each individual what belonging looks like for them. Um and so I was like looking back at our first podcast and what I wanted to do with this season being a coach, and it was about creating like this home, this place for people to feel safe and try new things and fall down and get back up. And so for me, that's like being part of a team is that it's like a space where you can feel safe to make mistakes, but you know that your teammates have your back and you have their back. And there's always going to be bumps with teammates and like groups of people, but like you come together with that shared kind of value. Um, and recognizing too that like there's different ways to contribute. I love playing myself, but I can see that it may not be something that I can do forever and ever and ever because it's a really hard sport. Like it it gets harder as we get older. And so there are other ways to be part of the community and belong that aren't on the ice or coaching or being part of an association in that way. But underneath it all is that like safe space. It's got to be, we're humans
Mhm.
first and foremost. So like and things are hard for a lot of people right now and for lots of different reasons. So like, why does it have to be even harder from
Yeah.
Yes.
this? Like, what can we do to like recognize there's another human in front of us? And I'm a human too. And like, let's get through hard times together.
I will always come from a place of looking for the people that are either underserved or not recognized as much. Like, for instance, yesterday my son's team had their party and it was parents versus kids. And there was a little, I don't know, maybe she was 4 or 5-year-old out in the ice and like just figuring out skating. And I went up to her afterwards and she's a sibling of another boy. And I said, I'm so glad you're here. And I gave her a fist bump, like, you did so well out there. And just looking for that and looking for people that maybe are under recognized and just giving them recognition and like I'm so glad you're here.
Yep.
So I think for me, belonging is always looking for those individuals, and recognizing like other people that may apply for coaching and don't get it, or recognizing where there's other components that I hadn't seen before as much. But for me, belonging is always just making us a safe space, a welcome space, holding space for the athletes, and even the parents at times are struggling with like what the heck's going on at times.
Yeah.
Um, I think it has changed over time. For me, it's just when I play, I just am so happy. Like I'm so happy to be moving my body. I'm happy to be talking with like amazing women. I'm happy to be like running into people and falling down sometimes. Like just I'm just so happy to be doing it. So I just want to bring that joy to others. And so for belonging, it's really just recognize that there's a space for joy here if we can help we'll find it.
Both of you do belong in hockey, and your experiences obviously looked very, very different, but they're both very important to talk about. Like having that positive experience of people communicating with you and like asking about where can you provide value and then giving you those opportunities to provide value. Like that's very important for women to see, and that can help them. Maybe they have some fears, but they can see like, oh, she had a great experience, and so I'm gonna try that out. And then, your experience wasn't as great. You made the most of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely did better than I think a lot of people would
I
have.
say you definitely handled it much more gracefully than I would have.
Your story is just so important because it's a real thing that women put themselves out there, but then they're told no, and they're told that they need to wait, or they need to prove themselves more, or they're not ready. And so other women are going to have that experience. And I think the way you responded is a great, kind of bulleted out, possible like list for someone going through that. Like, okay, Kimmy, like she was really strong and she went through all these things, and that's a plan I can follow to help me, through this situation as well. Because you're not the first person who's female, who's experienced this within hockey, and I can't imagine that you will be the last. I appreciate you two being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing your guys' perspective, because I think sometimes we forget hockey's been part of our lives for so long that we forget what it's like for someone new. And it's a reminder to us, like, we also have to be cognizant of what we're saying and doing around people that want to learn to coach, or new parents, or new people new even to our association. So thank you for sharing those with us.
Absolutely.
Kimmy, what are you hoping that your legacy in hockey is going to be?
My legacy. I very much want it to be that people of all ages and genders want to play.
Yep.
Truly. I mean, I'm regularly trying to recruit some fellow hockey moms, or even just friends that are like former athletes, like, you should come play. I actually have like a chat that's called Future Hockey Players. And I ping them with new stories. I'm like, hey, here's one, here's one. I just want everyone to experience the joy of learning something new at any age and challenging yourself.
Yeah.
And those that do, I want to show them respect, and I want to make sure that they feel valued, because it is super uncomfortable learning something new,
Yeah.
especially when it includes blades on your feet. Fair. Yes. Yes, it is.
For me to hear the message that you can try something new and not be good at it and get better, and you can work through feelings of like not being comfortable, if that's what you want to do. Like if you know, um, want to do that, and falling down and getting back up, and the camaraderie that comes with like other people are falling down and getting back up, or like, metaphorically falling down and getting back up. Like we can do hard things. And I feel like so much of hockey, the lessons you learn on the ice, like they're just mirrored in life.
So again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. So to end the episode, I want to remind all you ladies out there that you belong in hockey and you deserve to be a part of the greatest game in the world.
And don't forget to invite somebody else in.